Good Thursday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us a little later in the show. Paul Hoynes, Guardians beat reporter from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, will join us. Guardians getting ready for the regular season with some spring training action out in Goodyear, Arizona. We'll check in with Paul. We begin, though, by talking Browns. NFL Combine still going in Indianapolis. And it's the beginning, really, of the roster-building season. Legal negotiations with free agents can begin at noon on March 13th. Those free agents can be signed at the beginning of the league new year, which is March 15th at 4 p.m. Some news out of Indianapolis. Draymond Jones plans to test the free agent market, could command a contract in the $60 to $70 million range. Jones is coming off a career year, 6.5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, 9 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble in 13 games. That from Jordan Schultz. Pro Football Focus projects him to get a 4-year, $58 million contract. So that is in that $60 to $70 million range, 4 years. Pretty big ticket. Let's welcome in Quincy Carrier from Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Quincy, do you think that's the guy the Browns could target? It's a young guy. It's ascending. Ohio State guy, Cleveland kid from St. Ignatius High School. Or do you think that's probably a little bit higher than the Browns are going to go at tackle?
I think that's probably a little higher than the Browns are willing to go. But honestly, I don't have a good read on how high they're going to be willing to go for this position, because I think what we have seen from the past few years of Andrew Berry kind of get wiped away once you have a new defensive staff, right? Like what they were willing to spend at what position group was kind of dictated by who the defensive coordinator was and what the defensive coordinator wanted the budget to be prioritized to. Now the budget's different. So what might have been a no, we're not going to pay a defensive tackle $10+ million with the last DC, might be a yes with Jim Schwartz, who tends to prioritize these things. So that's kind of where the Browns are at. I think that's a little bit of a high number for a player of Draymond Jones's caliber. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's worth that much money. And I think you can get comparable play by getting multiple different defensive tackles at less money than that. But that's going to be dependent on what the priority is and what the game plan is from the coordinator level to the front office level about what players need to be acquired for this defense to reach its potential.
Yeah, and again, I like the way that sounds, and Andrew Berry admitted that they will check with the defensive coordinator to see what talents and skill sets Jim Schwartz needs to make this defense work. All right, we know because John Johnson III, they said they're going to move on from him. They made that pretty clear at the Combine, so he will probably be cut with that June 1st designation, saves him $975 off the cap. Here are 3 free agent safeties that could replace John Johnson III. Juan Thornhill of the Chiefs. Thornhill, good instincts as deep safety, moves sideline to sideline, good ball skills, make a play on the ball when it's in the air. Not as effective in run defense or coverage. Thornhill still has the skills to make the plays and prevent explosive runs. He's probably a little more affordable than this guy, Jesse Bates of the Bengals. As good as Bates is in coverage, his impact in the run game last season was even bigger. Missed only 7 tackles all season. Play recognition is on an elite level with the speed to make the most of it. All those things sound like very, very good things that the Browns could use. And then Rodney McLeod of the Colts. Veteran player who will be 33 next season. McLeod showed in 2022 he still has plenty left in the tank. Pro Football Focus gave him an 85.3 grade last season. He only allowed 9.3 yards per reception. When you listen to them, keeping in mind Bates is going to cost you probably a whole lot more than Thornhill or McLeod, where do you think they go to plug what is now a hole at free safety?
Yeah, I would stay away from Jesse Bates, to be honest with you. I don't think his play matches the price tag he's going to command in the market. And I think how the Bengals have treated his contract situation should be a red flag to anybody that's looking to get Jesse Bates as a franchise safety, because the Bengals clearly did not view him as one. Lou Anarumo clearly did not view him as one, because at no point during his contract negotiation were the Bengals ever really serious about getting him to an extension. And then they drafted Dax Hill. That's a huge red flag to me. On top of some of the red flags I feel like is in his tape. I think he's somebody who relies too much on QB eyes to make some of those great instinctual plays that he makes. And honestly, I think he's one of the more easily manipulatable free safeties. And if you're talking about busted coverage, and you think Jesse Bates is going to fix it, he was a part of one of the most busted coverage secondaries a couple years ago when he was getting his most snaps and his most the most space in his career as a safety. So I would be very worried about Jesse Bates that signing. I'm not a big fan of that player. But Juan Thornhill makes sense here. I think that would be along the lines, you're talking about a young guy who's not going to be too expensive. And look, he's not going to be super effective in run defense coverage, but like, I don't really care how great of a run defender my free safety is, because I don't want to know. You know what I mean? Like, if I got to know how good of a run defender my free safety is, there's other problems that needed to be handled before we get to that, right? Because
we found out how good our free safety was in run defense last year too often.
It didn't help us anything, right? Like, remember when Mika Fitzpatrick led the Steelers defense in tackles, and it was very easy to run on them? Like, that you don't want that life. Like, so yeah, is Juan Thornhill not a great run defender? Sure. But like, is that what we're going to ask him to do? I would hope not. That's Grant Delpit's job, is to do that, right? Is to be the free safety in the box. If Juan Thornhill has to make the tackle, there are like at least 4 guys that failed at their job. And if Juan fails and he's the 5th, how am I mad at the 5th domino for dropping, right? Like, you can't be mad at the 5th domino, because that's not the one that caused the cascade.
All right. Along those lines, now safety, a position you look at in the draft. Mary Kay Cabot tweets out, free safety Jamie Robinson from Florida State said he has a formal meeting with the Browns today at the scouting combine in Indianapolis. Robinson also talked about his skill set and some of the things that make him good.
What separates you? What's the one trait that you have that'll, put you in line with those great FSU DBs?
Well, honestly, versatility. You know what I'm saying? Being able to play the nickel, the dime, both safety positions. That's what I could honestly say. And I know all those guys, physical, they're smart students of the game, and, they play fast. And I feel like that's the same thing with me.
You play with a level of violence. Where does that come from?
I mean, that just comes from how I was raised, I got 5 brothers, single parent mom. So when I play football, it's just, to create joyfulness for my mom, you know what I'm saying? Had a rough upbringing a little bit, but, I feel like that's just like my safe haven, honestly.
You talk about that positional versatility, playing all over. Do you have a favorite spot to play?
No, sir, I don't. I just love to play football. If whatever position coach need me at, I had to go through that in college and high school, you know what I'm saying? So wherever they need me at, I'm going to be there. I like playing the nickel position, being able to cover in the slot with the quick, twitchy guys, you know what I'm saying? Being able to blitz off the edge, you know what I'm saying? And when I'm at safety, being at 12 yards deep, coming down, making a tackle at 3 yards, and just being able to be in the deep part of the field, that's a great thing for me.
And Quincy, you hear that? There's a guy that might be able to play some slot corner for you too, if you can find him in the draft.
It was interesting. I don't know how early you're going to draft a slot corner, but
Greg Newsom's
what
smiling.
was interesting, yeah, what was interesting with what he said was, he prefers to play the slot, which tells me everything I know about this dude, which is he's a strong safety. Like, he might be able to play free safety, but he's a strong safety because somebody who wants to play the slot likes to hurt people. Like, that's what he wants to do. And that man is a strong safety. I don't know if the Browns are looking for a player quite like that, but I would be interested to watch the rest of his career, because that is an interesting thing for somebody to say, because you never hear anybody say that. Yeah, I kind of prefer to play in the slot. that man likes violence. That man really likes violence. And it might be to his detriment at times, but it will definitely be entertaining to watch whatever team he goes to, because that's something that I've only heard Dante Whitner say. And we know what Dante Whitner's career was built on, which is just hurting people.
All right, so let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason for the first time today.
Hey, Dave, Frank from Cleveland. You're not quite as lucky today. I got a few things for you. All right, DeAndre Hopkins. If he really wants to play with Deshaun, restructure the contract. I mean, I'm getting confused. We did Amari's last year, so if they want to get him, can't they restructure? 2, no one got to prove themselves at their strengths with Joe Woods as coordinator. Let's face it, it's the truth. And God bless him when he goes somewhere else. I hope he succeeds. I'm like you. I don't like to see no one get fired. And then that'll be it. So, love you, Dave. Be good and be safe. Great show as always.
Appreciate all the voicemails. So, Quincy, NFL Rumors is saying the Cardinals would prefer a second-round draft pick. I'd prefer to be paid a whole lot more money, but you can probably get DeAndre Hopkins for a little less. The sticking point is I don't know how much he's going to want to restructure, because as you get up into the 30, 31, 32, 33 years, you want the money.
Well, I mean, there's 2 parts to that. One, yeah, he's not going to want to take a pay cut, nor should he want. Like, nobody wants to take a pay cut for no reason. And then 2, yeah, remember when the Browns wanted a second-round pick for Baker Mayfield, and they ended up getting like a 5th and a 6th? Like, I'm pretty sure they want a second-round pick. What they get will be different. And then 3, with DeAndre Hopkins, a lot of restructuring is used as like this magic word. I want to make sure, like, sometimes if you want to restructure your contract, that involves money that's already been paid out, which means that, like, if DeAndre wanted to restructure his deal, he wouldn't have to just take a pay cut. No. He would have to pay back, like, some of the guarantees on that contract, and nobody in their right mind is doing that. I don't care how good of a friend you are, and I'm pretty sure that caller has a homeboy, and I'm pretty sure he's not willing to sacrifice a year of checks to work with his homeboy. Ain't nobody willing to do that. That's crazy. So, you know, it really depends on the structure of the contracts. If he already got paid out a lot of guarantees, to restructure that deal is to kind of, you have to pay money back at that point. So it's not just this like magic do-all kind of situation. Not everybody is really eligible for restructures. Only people who are really eligible are people with guarantees left in their deal. And I don't think DeAndre has any left, because he signed that deal, 2 years ago? Most guarantees are out by the 3rd year. So maybe he can get a new deal in a new extension, but that's not going to be cheaper. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like DeAndre Hopkins, the price ain't coming down on him. That's right. The thing with him. The price is only really going to go up, and he's only going to get older. So that's the question you have to ask yourself. Do you think DeAndre Hopkins is the piece that could put you over the top and help you win a championship within the next 2 to 3 years? If you think the answer is yes, you make those sacrifices and you pay that price. But if you do not think the answer is yes, there's no hedging your bet there. Right? Like, so that's a move you only make if you think that that's going to get you to the Super Bowl. And I don't think we're that close yet to be making that kind of a move.
Yeah, and even Deshaun Watson, when we heard him on the radio show with his quarterback coach, even he said he's not sure that it's possible at this point. So we will continue to listen out for DeAndre Hopkins and where he may be headed. Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier from Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Fellow Cleveland Browns lover, what are you guys' thoughts on Kareem Hunt? I think he's done. I know he's a Cleveland native, but do you see him coming back? Is Jerome Ford going to take his place? I'm such a Jerome Ford fan. He reminds me so much of Nick Chubb. Him and Chubb down the field is just going to be nasty. If Kevin can just utilize him right, man, I can't wait.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. I do not think Kareem Hunt's coming back. I think he'll sign somewhere else and he'll be effective. Take a listen, though. Andrew Berry talked about Jerome Ford at the Combine earlier this week.
Yeah, Jerome, we thought did a nice job for us his rookie year. His main contributions were really within the kicking game and carved out a nice role as a really strong kick returner for us. One of the things that drew us to Jerome throughout last year's draft process, is his ability in the passing game, and he'll certainly have opportunities going into his second year to potentially showcase those skills on a more extended level.
So Quincy, what Andrew Berry was saying there is he kind of can replace the skill set that the Browns lost with Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, and I wouldn't assume that Jerome Ford just has a clean path into that second running back role. I think he's going to have to compete. They're probably going to draft a running back here. They might draft two because it's not just Kareem Hunt that's going to be leaving. You're also losing Dearness Johnson, who will be leaving here, who's been that third running back for this team for a while. So you need to replace a couple of spots here. So maybe they draft two running backs. Maybe they draft one, sign one. But I wouldn't expect that, Nick Chubb, obviously he's going to walk into his starting spot. There's no question about that. He's Nick Chubb. But when it comes to anybody below him, I like Jerome Ford, but there's a lot of other, like running backs, one of those positions where you could be good, but somebody could be really good too that you can get in the fourth or fifth round, or somebody could be really good that you get in free agency. Is one of those positions where the competition level is very high. So I wouldn't just expect Jerome Ford to step in and automatically be gifted a spot. He's going to have to battle for it. And if he does get out, knowing this team's history and how well that Stump Mitchell has coached running backs throughout his career, if he does get that spot, that says a lot, and I think he'll be ready. But, I would think it would be a competition. They're going to be ready at that position.
Yeah, I would agree. But the fact that he has the pass-catching ability, that's what the Browns liked about him. I referenced this earlier. So Deshaun Watson last week was on a radio show with Quincy Avery. It's The Q with Quincy Avery. That's his quarterback coach, his personal quarterback coach. On that show, Watson talked about getting back to an elite level.
I think it's just going to be work. People had so much expectations and high expectations, and all that stuff generates from the media. So I think I don't take it. Sometimes I take it personal. It just depends on how they speak it. But like most of the time, I don't really take it personal because that's their job in the media to be able to kind of talk good, bad, whatever they want to talk about. But when I look at it that way, people thinking that I fell off, or this, that, the third. What I'm saying? All it is they know how good I am, and they know the limit I am. So if I don't reach that standard and the expectation of myself and what I can play at, then of course it's going to be a failure. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's really just going ahead and putting the work each and every day. Not worrying about all that stuff. I hear it, I see it, but that stuff ain't gonna bother me. That's their job. You know what I'm saying? I like when people underestimate me, because when that shit happens, that's when I take it to a whole nother level. So for me coming into this year from day one, I got to go hard. I got to train hard. You know what I'm saying? And have everybody around me at the same level. And once we do that, we can make something special for Cleveland. And I feel like we got the team, we got the people, and we just got to, fill in the pieces. And once we get rolling, we're going to be rolling.
Quincy, there's a whole lot of national doubt with quarterback rankings and stuff, so let's hope it does, in fact, motivate Deshaun Watson like he says it will.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's going to be doubt when you're the Cleveland Browns, period, because you just haven't been good in, like, the last 25 years. There's no goodwill built up nationally or locally for that matter. So until people see you do it consistently, they will always kind of not believe that you can do it. That's not necessarily bias as much as it is, like, if somebody keeps losing for 20 years, how many of us are like, yeah, the Lions are going to be able to do it because they don't win either, right? Like, so it's just kind of the bet we've made for the last 20 years. We're going to be doubted until something changes, and Deshaun was brought in to be that change. Then things will change. But, it's kind of like with the Bengals, right? Bengals weren't respected before they got Joe Burrow. 2 years into that Joe Burrow, 2 full seasons into the Joe Burrow thing, now we respect the Bengals everywhere outside of Cleveland. But, it's one of those things to where you got to prove it to everybody before you can get that kind of benefit of the doubt. And people are going to assume that everything the Browns do is going to fail because that's been a safe bet for a very long time. Let's hope that those fortunes change.
All right, this one from Dog Pound Daily. 4 Browns we can safely call busts. Number 4, Demetric Felton, wide receiver, running back. Number 3, cornerback, Greedy Williams. Number 2, Anthony Schwartz, wide receiver. And number 1, Jacob Phillips. When I look at that...
Can you be a bust if you drafted on day 3? Like, what are we talking about, bust? One of those dudes were a 7th round pick that was on the team for 3 years. Right. He's still on the team. 7th round picks don't even make the team most of the time. What are we talking about, a bust? What busted expectations? Like, this is a result of wherever a player gets drafted, we get on social media and act like this player is going to be whatever people say they compare this dude to. Like, Demetric Felton being considered a bust is crazy. He's a 7th round pick. What did he bust? The only thing he could do, you can't be a bust if you're drafted at day 3. Because honestly, if you have a long career as a day 3 pick, you defeated the odds. Like, it doesn't matter. If you're in the league after 3.5 years as a day 3 pick, you defeated the odds. If you're not, then you're just a normal day 3 pick. That's just kind of how that happens, right?
Well,
like, 2nd round, you want to call Greedy Williams a bust?
Yeah,
he failed in the 2nd round for a reason. Like, he's still gonna be in the NFL for a long time. Like, that's normal 2nd round production.
He's got a bum shoulder.
This is crazy.
Some of them are injuries. Jacob Phillips injured. Yeah. Greedy, the shoulder injury.
I feel like Jacob Phillips could be on there if he wasn't a day 3 pick. But like, it's like. I get if people want to say this with 1st round picks, because 1st round picks are supposed to be extension level players at least like 55% of the time. So if you don't, that's a legitimate bust. But we're talking about 7th round picks, 4th round picks, 5th round picks, 6th round picks. What expectations are they busting because they're not Pro Bowl level players? That's ridiculous. We look at the draft, like every player has the same expectation as a 1st round pick. And that's insane to me that we're calling dudes who are like day 3 picks. Like that to me is a reach if you have to go all the way to the 3rd round to consider somebody a bust, or the 7th round, that means to me that you can't find obvious bust. And the article should have probably been something different because the idea just wasn't there.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, plus 1 free agent fit for every team, according to NFL.com. We'll tell you who they think the Browns should sign. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE with Quincy Carrier from Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
With the Bill Musgrave hire, I really do think that he's going to help Kevin really evolve this offense to its fullest potential, especially with the whole pro gun that he used in Cal. I think that their offense was really, really efficient. I know their record wasn't the best, but the offense was most definitely efficient. I think with Deshaun at the helm, I think Bill can, help AVP and help Kevin really give them advice and be that key role for them and really help this offense really take the next step. And I think with the players that we have, I think we can make the playoffs again.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Quincy, I think that's the expectation without question. It's important to note Musgrave was the offensive coordinator for Kevin Stefanski when he was the quarterback coach at Minnesota. So, yeah, it's kind of, he is a mentor. He is going to be brought in to help figure out how to maximize what they do in terms of developing the offense and building it around Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's another through line through this offseason where they really worked on just developing and getting more experience in that coaching staff, right? That's one of the things that this coaching staff lacked a lot of the last few years of, and that's one of the things that they seem to have a point of emphasis on improving is the amount of experience in the locker room. You added Jim Schwartz, you added somebody with a lot of locker room experience in Bubba Van Strong, and a guy who's been a coordinator for like 5+ years too. Like, I know he's a young guy, he's only 40, but a ton of NFL experience there with him. Bill Musgrave, a ton of coaching experience. It's just you want to add more and more experience when you get these staff turnovers because we know the seriousness of what's going to be these next few years, which is, hey, they're trying to win it all these next couple of years. And they need all hands on deck, and they need all experience, as much of a encyclopedia of experience they can afford around them to be able to do that and get over some of these hurdles that have tripped them up in the past.
Yeah, you want guys who have seen pretty much anything you can see during an NFL game. And in Jim Schwartz and Bubba Ventrone, who's been a special teams coach for quite a number of years, even though he's only 40, you got that. All right, this from NFL.com. One free agent fit for every team in the NFL. For the Browns, they say Paris Campbell. Folks that have watched know I am a fan of this one. Campbell, a speedster who has quietly started to develop into a quality receiver, can make plays with more than just his legs. Biggest hurdle has been his health. Just 15 games combined in his first 3 seasons. So that's certainly a concern. But this year in particular, he kind of took it up a level. His play.
The only thing I worry about with Paris is I always worry about players who kind of have a step up of play in that last year of their contract. Yep. I've been busted multiple times by that. But yeah, I like Paris a lot. It depends on what the market's going to look like for all of these wide receivers. That's kind of the wild card looming over every wide receiver question, because the market has been so crazy for wide receivers the last couple of years that either it's going to take a massive dip or it's going to keep going up. So we'll see what happens there. It's kind of hard to project any wide receiver at this point.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I know we need some wide receivers. I feel like that's a big thing we need to get for Deshaun. The tight ends, I think Njoku and Harrison Brand, he passed the ball to them a lot. I think he likes playing with them. He passed the ball awfully a lot to DPJ and Amari Cooper. He's going to like them. I just feel like we need a speed guy. And Mike Woods, the speed guy we've been waiting for, what we thought Anthony Schwartz was going to be. And who do you think the Browns are going to add in free agency? I don't see us getting DeAndre Hopkins. Even if Deshaun does talk to him, I really don't know. I know they're going to be restructuring Deshaun's contract, but it'll be hard. I just want to know you guys' thoughts. Go Browns. Ooh.
As always, appreciate them. I don't know that Woods is the speed guy. I want to see more of him. I think he can be an effective wide receiver. Hopkins, they'd have to trade for that again, and it's the money factor. I think they're gonna add a free agent. It might be somebody like a McCole Hardman or a Paris Campbell. What are your thoughts?
It'd be interesting to see which direction they choose to go with this extra wide receiver that they need to add, right? Because there are 2 schools of thoughts. There's either you get a big speed guy or you get a big, 50-50 go get him guy. I just don't know where are they leaning on that. And I think this is what makes the offseason kind of fascinating, is because you get a look into what they feel like they need, right? And free agency is that first glimpse into that. Because as much as we've talked about wide receiver, there's really not been that much talk about the Browns being hot in this traffic for wide receivers, right? Like, we've heard a lot about safety and defensive tackle and a lot of interest there, not a lot about wide receiver. And I'm wondering if the lack of smoke there is leading to a lack of fire for that position, and maybe that they might not be considering it that much of a priority.
Yeah, I mean, you could make that case. DPJ had a great year. Amari Cooper is your number one. I just would like I would like one more weapon for Deshaun Watson to have to go attack defenses with.
Yeah, and even with the conversation of that one weapon, it's like there's a debate on what that one weapon should be, right? Like, should it be somebody who can help you finish off drives in the red zone, or should it be somebody who could create explosives? I think a lot of us think that because of DePodesta, they're going to go with the guy who can create explosives, but I don't know. Like, I just don't think that was the Browns' problem last year, even when Deshaun was in there. Me personally, I feel like they needed somebody that they felt comfortable that can go up and get a ball, like go up and grab a ball in the air in the red zone. Like, we threw so many back shoulder plays that just did not work out between Donovan Peoples-Jones, Amari Cooper, and David Njoku, that, like, I don't think we have that guy on the roster unless Michael Woods develops into that guy. We don't have that guy, or maybe David Bell can be that guy, but we need somebody who could be that. Maybe they feel like they have that guy already and that they don't have a speed guy, so they go that direction. I'm fascinated on how this is all going to break down, because I don't really think I have a good grasp on what they want.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And you make a valid point with a guy that finishes drives, that Deshaun Watson can throw the ball up and let him go get it. Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Plus, we'll talk a little bit about defensive tackles. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier from Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I know we didn't see much of him, but I would like to know you guys' thoughts about Mike Woods. I think Mike Woods, I've been watching some of his highlights on YouTube from when he was at Oklahoma. It's really interesting stuff. I'm sort of upset we didn't get to see much of him last year. He could have been a really good, valuable piece. But, yeah, I want you guys' thoughts. Go Brown.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Quincy, he was kind of banged up, and it set him back a little bit. You know, he got hurt in training camp, and it set him back. I want to see more of him. I just don't know exactly what – I think the Browns want to see more of him too. I'm not exactly sure what the Browns have in Michael Woods.
I don't think they know either. I mean, like, again, this is another 7th-round pick. He was a rookie last year. I think it's impossible to even have a grasp on what you're going to know about this guy, except for he made the team in his first year. So, yeah, I think Michael Woods, I think he's an intriguing guy, though. I think that's somebody I look at and go, there's more there. When you look at him on tape and you look at a few times he's touched the ball, he has a burst that is pretty interesting there, and a good size profile. So I think the caller's onto something here. I think Mike Woods might be somebody you might want to keep an eye on because he might be more capable than what people are assuming right now.
Yeah, and again, he got hurt in training camp and really could not get enough reps to get him to where they were comfortable with him. So he's got to stay healthy, and then it'll be interesting to see. All right, free agent profile of guys that the Browns would be interested in. This is from Dogs by Nature. Delvin Tomlinson, defensive tackle, he was with the Vikings, 6'3", 325. I like the size. You see the stats. Only 2.5 sacks, but he did have the pressures, quarterback hits, and a couple of tackles for losses. He was in the final year of a $7.5 million for the contract. So affordable. Age is a little bit older. What do you think of Tomlinson? Is that somebody that you think kind of fits the profile of what they might be looking for?
He fits a profile now. I think there are multiple profiles on what they're looking for. I think Dalvin fits a profile of the type of player that they might want, but I don't think that's the only one that they're going to be looking for, right? I think there's a profile of a guy like DeForest Buckner that might be somebody that they look for, So I think there are multiple avenues and players and body types that they're going to be looking for to try to get the most out of this position this year. But yeah, he's definitely one of them that I think they're going to be interested in.
Do you think it's important for them to get a couple of guys that have played for Jim Schwartz? Just they know how Jim Schwartz operates. They know what the defense Jim Schwartz runs looks like when it is running effectively. Does that help if Jim Schwartz gets quote unquote his guy or two in here?
I think it helps Jim Schwartz feel better. Because he has a voice in the locker room, and that might be honestly, that kind of stuff is less about getting the defense installed and more about having a good grasp on what's actually going on in the locker room and what players are saying and what players are frustrated with in the locker room, more than the actual installment, because the installment's going to be the installment. He's run this defense enough to where he don't need help. He knows how to install this defense, but what could help him is having somebody in that locker room that he trusts, that he knows is gonna be holding it down for him, and can tell him, hey, like last year. So nobody was able to go to Joe Woods and be like, hey, man, Jadeveon, you don't like this role. You need to have a conversation with him. He don't like how you talking about him. He just feels some type of way about this whole situation. I need you to have to talk to him because he's frustrated. Nobody was in the locker room like that for Joe Woods. So that just came out, right? That's what that guy's helpful for Jim Schwartz, is where, somebody like Randy Grant could come up to him and be like, hey, you might want to talk to Greedy because Greedy really is having a hard time accepting his role. You know what I mean? Yep. Understanding which players are going to be having issues with that. It's more of a locker room thing. And that can help with installation because the less friction you have in the locker room, the less friction you're going to have installing stuff. But as far as the actual act of installing it, I don't think it would be that much more helpful.
All right, let's take a look at a 2-round mock draft. Pro Football Focus did it. So at 42, they have the Browns taking Canu Benton, defensive tackle from Wisconsin. Benton was somebody that we heard at the Combine earlier this week talking about where he has seen his game grow the last couple of years at Wisconsin.
I would say Wisconsin has definitely taught me a lot. Coming in my freshman year, I just knew what I needed to do, and then I knew I was good in the run game. Sophomore, junior, senior year, I started to develop my pass rush, started to develop my knowledge on the whole defense. So I feel like that just helped me in general, knowing the right place to be at the right time, and then opening pockets for myself to go make plays. Just my knowledge of pass sets and my toolbox. I feel like over the years I've got more plays or more moves in my toolbox. I was freshman year just a big guy, a power rusher. Now I'm feeling the leverage, kind of pulling guys or cross chopping, just trying different moves on guys, and then knowing the slide protection, just picking up on offensive lineman communication to know what moves I can have before it even happens.
So Benton is a guy that a couple of mock drafts have tied to the Browns. It will be interesting to see the numbers that come out once they get him on the field in terms of agility.
Yeah. I want to know what he weighs in at, because he is listed at 300 pounds, but he is a big man for 300 pounds. And you know how big you got to be for somebody to say you a big man for 300 pounds, where I think that looks light on you. So if he's not like more than 300, like, he must have a good frame because he carries it well. But yeah, he's an interesting one, long prospect, strong prospect. I think he's somebody that they can look for in that defensive interior. I think there's a number of guys you can look at in that defensive interior in this draft where you might come away with and have a positive opinion on. Some guys who are like the Ohio State kid, Malik Harrison, where you're probably Zach Harrison, my bad, who you're gonna have to move inside and kind of project more with him. Or you got guys like Carl Brooks is another guy like out of Bowling Green, who might be somebody that has to move inside and you have to project on him. But I think we're gonna look back at this draft class and see a lot of good defensive interior players.
Quincy Carrier, as always, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Quincy.
No problem. You have a great day.
All right, Quincy Carrier, make sure you check it out. Untitled, unfiltered Browns coverage, always really good stuff. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Cleveland Guardians down in Arizona. Paul Hoynes, Guardians beat reporter from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
Sports4CLE continues. We turn our attention to the Cleveland Guardians down Goodyear, Arizona, getting ready for the regular season, going through the spring training action. Paul Hoynes tweets this out. Guardians shut down lefty Sam Hench's swelling in his throwing shoulder, which is never a good sign. Let's welcome in Paul Hoynes, Guardians beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Hoynes, Hench's was a guy that they moved to the bullpen, and he started throwing really well last year. How concerning is that you're shutting him down this early in spring?
Yeah, I think it's a concern, Dave. When Terry Francona says, they're going to, check on a relief pitcher, not by day to day, but week to week, you wonder, he had an MRI. They found swelling and inflammation around the ligaments in the shoulder. So that's a concern, and they've had a few kind of bumps and bruises in that bullpen, with Henkes, Cody Morris, who could be a swing guy who could help him in the pen, is out with a lat. Aniel De Los Santos, who really pitched well for him last season in the pen, has a hamstring, and he hasn't pitched yet, and Nick Sandlin, who pitched well for him too, and got hurt in the postseason. He still hasn't appeared in a game. So, that's the bullpen was a team strength, one of the best in Major League Baseball last year, and now you've got some openings there.
Yeah, and you're trying to piece things together to get to Karinchak in the 8th and Clase in the 9th. Those two are still healthy. That's good news without question.
Yeah. We haven't seen Clase yet, but the word is he's healthy. But Dave, he got pitched so much last year. He led the big leagues in appearances with over 70. Led the big leagues in 42 saves. So I think they're probably easing him into the Cactus League season. But you got Clase, you've got Karinchak, you've got Trevor Stephan at the back end, and that's three pretty good, three real strong arms right there. But Hentges, you need him back. He's a lefty, and he really kind of emerged last year, and he was dynamite going down the stretch.
Yeah, it was effective in the postseason as well. All right, this is from the Bleacher Report, predicting one unlikely contributor from each MLB team 2023. For the Guardians, they're going with the guy that's banged up, Cody Morris. Struck out nearly half, 39 of the 80 batters he faced in the minors last year, and he marked his brief time in the majors with a mid-90s fastball, a changeup that drew whiffs at a 47.6% clip. You mentioned the lat injury, but again, 26 years old. Terry Francona in the Guardians always say, when you think you have enough pitching, go out and get a couple more. And that's proven to be true early this year.
Yeah, Morris, they love Morris. The problem is he hasn't been healthy. He has a hard time staying healthy. He came up last year, made 7 appearances, 5 of them starts, and they were very, very good starts. And, he made the postseason roster. I think he threw a couple scoreless innings against the Yankees in the ALDS. If he can stay healthy, Dave, he's a swing guy. He could, be their 6th starter, or he could help them in the pen. Valuable guy. And Francona said they're going to be ultra cautious with this guy. So I would not be surprised if he opens the year on the IL.
Well, another guy that was banged up last year, but when he's been healthy has pitched well, is Aaron Savali. And I know you dealt with this on your Cleveland Baseball Talk podcast with Joe Noga. Do you think he can be consistent? Can he be a guy that kind of breaks through in 2023 for the Guardians?
Yeah, Dave, we've seen it before. We've seen him have great, solid years before. He was headed for an all-star appearance, in 2021 when he strained that middle finger of his right hand, and he didn't come back till September, and that kind of snowballed into last season when he had, wrist and forearm and a glute injury, really kind of sidetracked him. So, he pitched 1 inning yesterday in his first Cactus League start. I thought he'd go more, but he went to the bullpen and finished up there, reached his pitch count. So I think they're being cautious with him. But, if he stays healthy, he's going to be a solid, middle of the rotation starter.
The Indians still have pretty young pitching without question. Does the pitch clock affect them? How do you see that playing out? It's first year for it. Games are shorter. Does it affect the pitchers?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I know Cal Quantrill, who started, he was starting today, against San Francisco, but he started the opener, and he said, he was going too fast. He was, that 15 seconds you get to throw, that you have to deliver the pitch with no one on base. He was, it was longer than he thought. So he was really rushing. I think he looked a little better today. He slows down. I think a lot of guys that have come up, the younger pitchers who have pitched with the pitch clock in AA and AAA, it's not such a concern. Tristan McKenzie didn't seem very, very worried about it. Zach Plesac, did a nice job with it. So I think it depends, how you use the pitch clock and if you're watching it or, what kind of rhythm you have. But I think gradually, the pitchers are going to get used to it. They're going to have to get used to it.
Yeah, and you make a very good point. The younger guys have dealt with it in the minors. It's the guys that have been in the big leagues for several years that it's new to. What about the elimination of the shift? Part of me kind of goes, I hate that. Find a way to hit around it. And the other part of me goes, I understand they're trying to get more movement and dynamic movement in the game.
Well, Travis Hafner might want to make a comeback, Dave. I mean, how many hits did we see him lose to the shift and the line drives to a short right field? And Carlos Santana might never retire. I mean, he can play forever now. But, Terry Francona used to say, hitters will adjust. They will adjust to the shift. We're going to see that happen. And they never adjusted. I mean, certain players did. But, if you're a pull hitter, you're going to try to hit the ball over the ball. You get paid for home runs, so that's never going away. I think the shift is going to make things interesting. I think, like you said, it's going to add more action, and it's definitely going to help guys like Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor.
Yeah, I mean, it plays right into what the Indians want to do. They want to put the ball in play, and you are just giving them more areas to put the ball in play now.
Yeah, and you've got more holes in the infield. You've got bigger bases. The distance between first and second and third is shorter for a team that runs like Cleveland. They were second in the American League in stolen bases last year. That's kind of sets up your offense in motion. That really puts everything that you like to do in motion. You like to make contact. You like to run. You like to hit and run. You like to go to from first to third. So, I think it can't do anything but help Cleveland.
Paul Hoynes, Guardians beat report from Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, top 25 players in MLB under 25. There's a Guardian on this list. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Guardians with Paul Hoynes, Guardians beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. This is from the Bleacher Report. MLB's top 25 players under 25. Number 1, they have Juan Soto. Number 2, Julio Rodriguez. Number 3 is Vladimir Guerrero. Checking in at number 8, Andres Gimenez wound up finishing 6th in the AL MVP voting. He slashed 297, 371, 466, 26 doubles, 17 homers, 69 runs batted in, 66 runs scored, 20 steals. By the way, he was also the Gold Glove second baseman. Just 24 years old, has already been in the big leagues for a number of years. Mets probably rushed him there a little bit before he was ready. Hoynes, the more you saw of him, you just realized this guy can play, and he's 24.
Yeah, really exciting player, Dave. Makes that Francisco Lindor trade look very good for Cleveland. He's here for a while. He's only got, I don't think he's got 2 years in the big leagues. So, he's going to be in Cleveland for the extended period of time. Just had a breakout year last year, more power than you thought. He can run, and like you said, he's a Gold Glove defender. I mean, there's a lot to like right there.
Yeah, I mean, if he hits 250 and plays defense the way he is, it's a win. If he hits 300, you're talking about an all-star, and he can play shortstop too if need be. That might be his better position, but the way they played defensively, it's tough to move him.
Yeah, especially with the shift now, the limitations on the shift, he can really go to his left. He can make the play in the hole. You saw him make some like Robbie Alomar type plays last season, behind first base. I think the shift, the limitations on the shift are not going to hurt Cleveland at second base. That's for sure.
Yeah, without question. Jimenez has been great. So let me ask you this. Jimenez, Quan, Oscar Gonzalez, they all had a lot of success last year. Is it fair to expect them to all repeat or even get better? Or is there, with young guys, sometimes there's a little bit of a dip?
Yeah, there certainly is. The one guy I think that's kind of immune to that, and I don't want to put the hex on him, but I think Quan is immune to that. I think, he's so disciplined at the plate. I think the first Cactus League game, he had 2 hits in his first 2 at-bats, line drive singles up the middle. And so, I think excuse me.
That's all right.
Can I get a drink of water?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
So Hoynes is going to take a drink there, and go ahead.
Yeah, I think Quan is probably, if you look at his minor league numbers, very similar to what he did last season. The guy that probably has the biggest question mark is Gonzalez. Mm-hmm. He only played 91 games in Cleveland. He strikes, he's really aggressive. He doesn't walk, but he's still at a high batting average, still showed power. Now, is he going to be able to do that over the course of 150, 160 games? That's a big question mark. Jimenez, I think we saw him come on, had the breakout year last season, and he just looked a lot more comfortable last year. And I think that'll carry over. He went down to winter ball, played shortstop to get ready for the WBC. I saw him in spring training. He looked stronger and bigger. So I would expect him, to come on and have a parallel season.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Jimenez is, he's kind of hitting his stride and really starting to play well, without question. Josh Bell, free agent signing. He seems to be kind of the perfect fit for the Guardians just because he's another guy. He puts the ball in, he's a power hitter, but he puts the ball in play a lot.
Yeah, he's I think 17, 19 home runs last year. Had a good first half with Washington, struggled, when he got traded to San Diego. But, yeah, I think he's just what they needed. Switch hitter to hit behind Jose Ramirez and, gives them some thump, and they need some power. They'll finish second. They hit the second fewest home runs in the big leagues last year. So they need some help there, and he should be able to supply that.
All right, 2-part question before I let you go. So last year's success, Terry Francona has talked, we kind of got to build on that. We want to take it to the next level. What do you think the key is to that, and then what concerns you? What areas concern you?
I think the concern is, I think the bullpen's going to be all right. I think they'll be able to fill those holes. The last 2 spots in the rotation are a bit of concern to me, with Plesac and Stavali, coming off tough years last year. The good thing there is, they've got a ton of pitching prospects, at AA and AAA. We saw them, we saw Savali and Plesac and Bieber come up, that class of 2016. Well, I think they've got, other pitchers like that can help. Another question is, are they going to score enough runs? I think that's always a concern to me. And I think the additions of Josh Bell and Mike Zunino are going to help that. But I if they're going to be sound defensively, and I think they're going to pitch okay. They didn't do a whole lot to get better, over the winter. They're relying on that young core again to take a step forward, and that can be shaky. We'll see how that works.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point. They're thinking that because our guys are young, we're going to trust our development people. It worked out last year. The thought is Jimenez gets a little bit better. Quan gets a little bit better. The guys that are young get a little bit better, and collectively, it makes a difference.
Yeah, and God, I'm struggling. I am struggling, man. Hold on. Okay, where were we again?
The young guys just taking a step forward.
Yeah, I guess, do you believe sorry, do you believe in the sophomore jinx or not? I don't know. I think these players are pretty good, though. You've got Quan, you've got Gonzalez, you've got, Miles Straw has to come back. He's got to have a bounce back year. The infield, I think, is solid. Naylor, Bell, Jimenez at second. Ahmad Rosario, is coming off a very, very good offensive player. And Jose Ramirez is probably one of the best players in the game. Zunino should be a solid catcher. I think they're going to be able to take that step forward that they need. I really think this is, probably when you think about it, just the whole 25, 26, and 40-man roster, it's probably the most dynamic roster they've had since, those great teams in the 90s. The only thing lacking is power. So we'll have to see how they compensate for that. But, the change in rules, I think that benefits Cleveland. The one thing that doesn't benefit Cleveland is, I think, the change in the schedule. You've got a balanced schedule now. They're not going to be able to play all those games in the AL Central where they dominated, and that could hurt them.
Yeah, without question. Paul Hoynes, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Paul.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, Paul Hoynes, make sure you check him out. Guardians beat reporter, always great stuff with the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.